Welcome in, Steelers fans. This is Steelers Talk. I am your host, Jack Sperry. Today, I am answering your questions coming to you from the live mailbag from the live show on Wednesday. So if you're watching this and it's not Wednesday, that means you missed the show. But if you did that, that's okay, because you can still send in a question that we can put up on next week's live show if you do Super Thanks here. So Super Thanks is a really cool feature on YouTube that lets you donate to the channel outside of live videos. So what you have to do is you have to click the thanks icon. It looks like that heart with the money sign there, and you can send in any amount of money you want, and you can put your question there. If you have a question you want me to answer on Steelers Talk Live, go ahead, do that right now. We appreciate the support, and every single Super Thanks will get a shout out on next week's live show. So now let's get into our first question of the day today. It comes from President Nitty, who says, Sperry holds down Steelers Talk. FPD. Shout out Tom Downey. Appreciate you, President Nitty, for the $2 super chat. Now let's get into some questions here. First one comes from Not Webb's Rule, who says, Edmonds is gone and Sims is gone. Is it too much to ask for Pittsburgh to make sure they walk out of the first round with Branch and Addison? Just flip that second for a late first. So I think that this is a decent plan here. I think that this is actually quite realistic, because I think if the Steelers don't add a safety in free agency, okay, and there's a couple of decent options there still available that they could sign, but if they don't, Brian Branch is probably going to be the betting favorite to be the pick for the Steelers at number 17. If that happens and Jordan Addison falls a little bit in the first round, say he gets like 24, 25, gets past the Giants pick there, I think that the Steelers would, at that point, look to trade up potentially for Jordan Addison. Pair him up with Kenny Pickett. If you could bring in Brian Branch and Jordan Addison on day one of the draft, that would be bloody fantastic. Now, what is it going to take to move up from the first pick of the second round to a late first rounder? I'd say it probably takes pick number 32, obviously, and then probably another mid-round pick. So maybe another fourth-round pick. I mean, I'd kind of hate to give up a second and a third just to move up a couple of spots, but I think that it kind of depends on the team, what they're looking for, what they would be willing to trade down with. But hey, if the Steelers walked away with both Brian Branch to be their next strong safety and Jordan Addison to be their next weapon for Kenny Pickett, I would be one happy camper. Next question. A $10 super chat from Go Blue Buckeye here, who says Pickett is the dark horse. I think our running game is coming back strong. If it does and Pickett improves, the Steelers will be making the playoffs. I see something brewing in Pittsburgh. I see the same thing that you see, Go Blue Buckeye, man. I think that this defense is going to be a top 3 defense in the league next year, especially if they stay healthy. Kenny Pickett, I think that he showed some really nice progression in season in his rookie year, and I think that's a really good sign that he's going to make even more steps this offseason. I think he's going to be a pretty darn good, solid starting quarterback in the National Football League starting next season, and with the roster that the Steelers are building around him, I think the Steelers are going to really compete for that AFC North crown in 2023. Next question comes from Hank DeMathis here, who says, what are some sleepers at linebacker or cornerback the Steelers could draft? So I think that it kind of depends what you define as a sleeper. Some people would define it as like day 2. Some people would define it as like late day 3. At linebacker, some people I think are being slept on a little bit. I think that Dorian Williams from Tulane, some people have him as like their 4th or 5th linebacker, could get him maybe even in the 4th round. I think that he's the second best linebacker in this class. I have him ranked higher than Drew Sanders, Trenton Simpson. I think that he's a really good pass coverage linebacker. And that's exactly what the Steelers need right now, guys. We know this. Cole Holcomb and Landon Roberts, they're like the athletic, go-get-a-tackle type of guys, and they don't really have that pass coverage type linebacker in the ranks right now. That's something that they need to get, which is why Jack Campbell might be the betting favorite for the Steelers at number 32 right now. But Dorian Williams, man, he's not quite as big as Campbell, but he's just as good in instincts and pass coverage, in my opinion. I think he'd be a complete sleeper in the middle rounds of the draft. Then at cornerback, somebody that I think could potentially slide a little bit and could be really, really good is Tyreek Stevenson. Steelers are bringing him in for an official visit. I think that he's really athletic. I think he sticks with people really well in pass coverage. I think he has the physical skill set to be a really good player in the National Football League, potentially a number 1 cornerback, and right now you could maybe get him in round 3. Like, I think that he's a really good player. I think that the film shows that he's got some really smooth hips. I think that he's a really smooth athlete. He's got good ball skills. I think that he's going to be a good player in this league, and if the Steelers could maybe get him in round 3, that'd be a steal for me. So go ahead and go into the comment section and tell me, who is your favorite sleeper prospect in this year's NFL draft class? It could be anyone that you want, all right? So anybody that you think is being slept on this year in this NFL draft class, put it down in the comments section. This is the pinned comment on today's show. So whenever you get an ad break here, just go down to the comment section, find that pinned comment, and answer today's question. Next question comes from Matt Hyde here. He says, do you think the Steelers trade up for Broderick Jones? I think it's very possible. If they really want to get that left tackle for the future and they really want to make sure that they get that locked in, and Broderick Jones is the only tackle that they like that's still available, say at like 14, 15, maybe even 13, 12, I think that they would make a move to trade up. I think that Broderick Jones is exactly the type of left tackle that they're looking for. Broderick Jones has the strongest lower body of any offensive tackle prospect in this year's draft class, and frankly, it's not close. He's going to be a great power blocker at the next level, and he's athletic enough to play zone stuff if that's really what you want to do with him. So he's very versatile in the run game. He's got a little bit of work to do in his pass sets, but he didn't allow a sack last year in the SEC, which of course is the best conference in college football. So I think he's absolutely worth a top 15 pick, and he's definitely worth trading up for, in my opinion, as long as the price to trade up for him isn't too steep. All right, next question comes from Brian Siu, who says, any word on Dupree? So there was a report yesterday, I can't remember who had it, who said that it's over a 50% chance that Bud Dupree is a Steeler at this point. Now, I would tend to agree with that. You're bringing him in for a visit here pretty soon. I think that that's probably going to be a medical check. If everything checks out medically for him and both sides agree on a good salary, which I think at this point is probable, I would say he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Now, there's some pretty decent other options at outside linebacker that they could look at, but it seems like Dupree is their guy, and if the medical stuff checks out, he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Then we got a $5 super chat from Not Webb's World, who says, if Darnell Washington, Jack Campbell, and Kalijah Kancey slide to 49, who would you take? Me, I'm taking Darnell. Shout out to Fad Boy. Okay. If it's at 49, it kind of depends what the Steelers have already taken, to be honest with you, because at this point they've taken already 2 players. But just based on what the Steelers are looking at right now, that's tough, man. Those are good players. I'm not going to go Kancey because they already have Larry Ogunjobi to play the 5 technique. I don't want Kancey as a backup, even though I think he's one hell of a player. I would probably pick, not knowing who the Steelers take before them, I'm going to take Jack Campbell. The Steelers need a coverage linebacker. Jack Campbell is the best coverage linebacker in this year's draft class. He's big. He's great in the run game. I think he's going to be one hell of a pro. He's going to be a really good pro right away too. Like he is right out of the box, ready to go. He's going to be maybe even your linebacker 1 next year if he falls to 49, which honestly is unlikely. I think you'd probably have to get him at 32. But if he falls to 49, you haven't taken the linebacker yet, Jack Campbell is your guy. And speaking of the draft, guys, the new official Steelers draft hats are here. And I think that the designs this year are pretty darn sweet, guys. Go to chatsports.com/Steelers draft hat to get yours today. And here's the thing, guys. These things do not stay on the shelves long. I'm telling you, we're almost already sold out of most of these items. I think that the new black and yellow version of the Steelers draft hat is really, really cool. And all of these guys are selling out really, really fast. So if you want to get yours today, you want to be donning the same headgear as the draft class of 2023 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, go chatsports.com/Steelers draft hat to get your draft hat today. Next one comes from Dominic Schrader, who says, Jack, don't hate on my man Darnell. 17 is too high, but 32 is perfect. And he was also young playing left tackle in the SEC. That is true, Dominic. He was young, and he just wasn't good when he was playing left tackle. So could he move over to left side? Maybe. I mean, I would have my apprehensions that he could. I mean, he was really, really good in the SEC last year. Didn't allow a sack at Tennessee. Will Anderson Jr. himself said that Darnell Wright was the toughest matchup he ever had in college. He's a good player. right? But if I'd have to guess, he's going to be a right tackle or a guard, and right now the Steelers are looking for a left tackle. Now, you say 17 is too high. I would agree with that. 32, I think if the Steelers pass on an offensive tackle in the first round, say they don't trade up for somebody or someone doesn't fall to them and they take, say, like a Devin Witherspoon or a really good corner in round 1 and they end up taking Darnell Wright at 32, I wouldn't mind that, okay? I wouldn't mind that whatsoever. Like, maybe you can move him over to the left side. Maybe Chucks will move over to the left side. He's a good player. No matter what happens, if you draft Darnell Wright, you're going to get a solid starter somewhere on the offensive line for a very long time. I just think 17 is a little bit too rich for my blood. Next question comes from Dragster900, who says, I saw a rumor that Pittsburgh could trade for Devin White. Could they, and how much would it cost? So Devin White, for those of you that don't know, really, really good linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At this point, I think it's unlikely that they trade Devin White. No, I don't know where you saw this rumor. Maybe I'm missing something. I have not seen this rumor. But for me, guys, Devin White isn't going anywhere. And if you want to trade for him, it's probably going to take a second-round pick. Now, I mean, and that's for a position, linebacker, that's just not very valuable in NFL circles, right? So he's one of the best linebackers in the league. He's very fast. He's a great leader. He has everything that you want in a linebacker, so that's why he's worth a second-round pick. But I just don't see Tampa Bay parting with a guy like that crucial leader type in their locker room for a second-round pick. But that's just me. So go ahead right now, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. NFL draft is right around the corner. We're going to have a bunch of great draft stuff coming up. And if breaking news happens during NFL free agency, say Bud Dupree signs with the Steelers tomorrow, we're going to have breaking news coverage for you guys. So if you want breaking news coverage every time the Steelers make a big move this offseason, you got to click that subscribe button right now and join the fastest growing Steelers channel here on YouTube. Next question comes from Mimic Tarzier235, who says, how high would you rank Pat Freiermuth among other tight ends? I think he's getting ready. So it's weird with Pat because I think when you talk about receiving tight ends, you could make an argument he's already top 5. I think that he's a great route runner. He's got great hands. I think as a receiving tight end, not many people are better than Muth. He's not a very good blocker is his thing. In run blocking, I mean, he gets bullied around. He's not particularly huge. He's not a big body by any means. But that's okay. Like there's a lot of receiving tight ends out there that aren't great blockers. So for me, I'm going to solidly put him in the top 10. And, I'd have to see a list of the other tight ends here for me to fully answer this question. But he could very well be like 5th, like right at the edge of top 5 for me. I think he's a really good player. He's going to have a really good year in 2023. Next question comes from Steeler Nation, who says, will Steelers trade with Kansas City then, draft McDonald and Siaki Ika back-to-back? So Siaki Ika is actually falling down draft boards a little bit right now. He didn't have a great combine. He looked sluggish. He looked a bit slow. He didn't test well. And guys like Keanu Benton, guys like Mozzie Smith, like those guys are really great athletes that are really rising up draft boards right now. So you might be able to get a guy like Siaki Ika later on, maybe even at pick 49 if you're lucky. Will McDonald is somebody that I am a big fan of. I think he's one of the top 5 edge rushers in this class. And some people have him as a second rounder. I just don't see it. He's a first round edge rusher in my opinion. Now, some people are like, oh, he can't defend the run. He can't defend the run. Yes, he can. At Iowa State, he was playing like a 5 technique. Like they had a 3-man front, and he was getting double teamed against in the run. Like I mean, I think he's like 230 pounds or something like that. Are you really expecting a 230-pound man to take on 2 offensive linemen and win? Like, it's just not going to happen, guys. I think once he gets into a true 3-4 outside linebacker role, which is what he's perfect for in the NFL, I think he's going to be one heck of a player, potentially even a star player in the NFL. I would absolutely love to add him to the black and gold. Next question comes from Derek T., who says, trade Deontay Dropson for DeAndre Hopkins. We talked about this on the earlier part of the Steelers Talk live show, and this one's a tough one because first of all, it's not going to happen. Let's just get that out of the way. But in the hypothetical situation that I'm the GM of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I wouldn't mind it. Deontay Johnson, he does one thing really, really well, which is get open, right? It's a really, really important thing for a wide receiver, but like he doesn't have great body control. He doesn't make great catches. He's not a red zone threat. Like he does have concentration drops at times. And DeAndre Hopkins, like not only would be a fantastic mentor to George Pickens, who was actually my comp for Pickens coming out, was DeAndre Hopkins. Like they're so similar in that way. They both have great hands, good route runners. Like they're both like they're very good players. Like combining those two will be fantastic. But at the end of the day, this won't happen. Deontay Johnson will be a Pittsburgh Steeler in 2023, and I expect him to have actually a pretty darn good season. All right, so now it's crystal ball time. Look into those crystal balls of yours and predict for me. Predict the Steelers' record next season. Do you think they'll get to double-digit wins? Do you think they'll get up to 13 wins? Like, how good are the Steelers going to be next year? I can't wait to see what you guys have to say about this one in the comments section. Next question comes from Owen Moran, who says, do you think we could sneak someone like Matthew Bergeron in late second round, or even a steal on the TCU cornerback Hodges-Tomlinson in the fourth? It's certainly possible with both of those. Matthew Bergeron, I think, he's got the body to really be like a true blue chip offensive tackle in this league. The problem with him is that he's kind of a baby. Like he's kind of a wimp. Like he's got the body to be a complete mauler. He just doesn't really use it. He's more of a zone tackle in my opinion because he's not all that aggressive in his rush sets. I don't think that he has the type of mentality that the Steelers are looking for at the position. So I really don't think Bergeron is going to be on the Steelers' radar personally. But Hodges-Tomlinson, man, he's a good player. Like there's so many good corners in this year's draft class. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he fell to the fourth. Like there's going to be some really good corners that people are projecting to be like second round picks right now that are going to fall to day 3. And like somebody is going to get one heck of a steal on day 3 with some of these corners because it's such a deep cornerback class. I would love to add Hodges-Tomlinson there in the middle rounds. Last question here comes from CM Punk, who says, get Jordan Addison. Now, I would love to add Jordan Addison, but I don't think that he should be the top priority. I don't think Omar Khan and company should be going into the draft saying, no matter what happens tonight, we have to get Jordan Addison. I think that primary focus has to be on getting a left tackle because like we've discussed here on the show, Dan Moore Jr., I think he's more of a zone tackle. The Steelers are shifting to more of a power run scheme. It'd be really nice to get a guy like Broderick Jones or Paris Johnson Jr. that have the proper power in their game to really make this work for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward. But if those guys are gone, right, or if you take one and then Jordan Addison falls to the later half of the second round, I wouldn't mind trading back into the first to take him. I really wouldn't. I think that pairing Kenny Pickett with his favorite college receiver would do wonders for this offense, but specifically in the passing game. I know that the Steelers are pretty darn good at the wide receiver position right now. You got Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Calvin Austin III, you hope is pretty good. Of course, you got Pat Freiermuth as your receiving tight end. But, you bring in a guy like Jordan Addison, it just gives another level of comfortability for Kenny Pickett, which for me is completely worth it. All right, so if you haven't already, go ahead and follow me on Twitter for more Steelers content, opinions, all that sorts of stuff, news. If you want more Steelers content, at Jack_Sperry on Twitter. If you do so, I will give you a shout out on next week's Steelers Talk Live show.